you so very much. And so Gust is an old platform. It is not the new latest and greatest thing. We use it because we know the little bumps along the way with it, so we don't have to learn new things. But we also use it, and we use the version of it we do because it allows you to continue editing. And so while we expect that today is the deadline and that everybody who's coming in buys a ticket today, and don't wait till midnight because it ends at 11:58, not midnight, that you've also submitted a Gust profile. And the very first round of what we do is we read the Gust profile, and we ask the investor. So on March 2nd, we will go to the investors, and we will introduce the investors. This is what Gust is. Here's a great big pile. Go through that pile and find 24 companies you want to talk to for your quarterfinals. And so in the week on March 9th, we'll select those quarterfinalists, and a bunch of people will not get pitched because their gut profile was not sufficient for them to get there, because the only effective communication mechanism you have is your Gust profile. So I want to set the stage. There are currently 54 people that have completed their process. There's likely a few more that are going to come in. So we'll have on the order of 60 or so companies. And we will say to the investors, here's 60 Gust profiles, read them all. So what do you do in your busy life? You put them off until the last minute. And then you go through and you look at things quickly, and then you dig deeply in the ones that are interesting. So in so much as you are not compelling with the very beginning sentences of things, then people never read the later sentences of things. And so put yourself into that position. You have to look at 60 of these in the next week, and you spent the first 4 days of the week dealing with the kids and work and other things. And so now you got 2 days left, and you're going to have to go through it over the weekend after you put kids to bed. And so how are you going to be compelling? So Andrew and Caitlin work for a marketing company called Synthesis Marketing. And this Gust profile is a marketing document. You are selling yourself. And they've gone through and looked at it from that perspective. And I'm going to let Andrew and Caitlin dive in deep from here. And I'll jump in with loads of opinion.
Usually. Oh, and I wanted to correct you, John. 61 profiles they're going to now have to go through. Our numbers are still climbing. So I wanted to ask you a quick question to kind of preface everything else, John. How many people just get through the Gust profile round?
So we only select 24. So however many that apply minus 24 is the answer, right?
Okay, and typically how many?
And it's important to note. It's important to note that there have been in the last 2 SACs several examples of perfectly good companies that had perfectly good revenue with perfectly good traction and nice teams that did not make it to the quarterfinals because they did a crappy job throwing a bunch of stuff into Gust and not making it go anywhere. And so we would like people to do as a good enough job on Gust to at least get to the quarterfinals by making a crisp understanding.
Yeah, so basically what I've gathered from this, from the investors, is that if you don't fill out your Gust profile, you're not going anywhere. That's it. That's just the basic litmus test, right? Like, did you fill out every box? Were you able to just, were you able to do the homework and turn it in on time is the question. After this statement, I'm sure half of you are thinking to yourself, shit, I got to go back there right now and do that. And that's totally the case for all of you. Don't worry. All of you are going to go look at it after this. Don't stress out about it. Do stress out about it, but not like, don't like have an existential crisis about it. So anyways, I will, I guess I'll introduce myself a little deeper, then John can start streaming for us, or we can start casting. I'll let Caitlin start.
Hi, I'm Caitlin. I'm a senior marketing consultant at Synthesis Marketing Solutions. Together, we decided to present on the Gust profile because we believe that it's really the first step to even making it in the door. If you don't have your gust profile, you're not going to make it any farther than just filling out what you filled out. And it's really important to not only have it for the Seattle Angel Conference, but to keep changing it over time and using it for future opportunities as well.
Yeah, so I'm Andrew. I'm a senior marketing consultant at Synthesis as well. I was the one who kind of spearheaded working with John as a sponsor for the Seattle Angel Conference. I've been a passionate startup guy for a long time. I think that's the best you can call me, a founder, I guess. I've gone through a litany of startups myself, and then when we shifted into marketing, it just made the most sense because that's what we were strongest at. We just had terrible ideas, which some of you will also have to come to terms with or already have by now. So, you know, it's a thing that goes around, you know, like if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to figure out it sucks to fail, and every once in a while you got to do it to learn. So I'm really passionate about wanting to help startups, wanting to give them better tools, like wanting to basically prop you guys up with what I didn't have going into this. And so it's a cool opportunity to actually get to be able to kind of teach people how to do it properly. And we offer this service to John as a way of just helping with the conference. There's not really like an exchange of money or anything like that. This is something we do because it actually is a passion point. So you guys are able to reach out to us throughout this process. You know, you can drop us a line if you have a question. I've actually already met quite a few of you over previous talks and events, but none of us have really spoken directly, aside from John and a few other people. Anyways, so we'll dive into the gust profile. One thing to remember is that these are what you're going to see in the slideshow, which we'll make available to you guys, is an overview, and then the actual talking points are things that we'll want to discuss as we go over these specific slides. So I think the slides will more help like a guide rail to help you remember what I said during those times, and then you can use that and review it instead of having to take a ton of notes and make it overly frustrating and then have to rewrite your gust profile later trying to use these notes. You can just go through and be like, okay, what did he say that was important about what I already did and I need to fix now? So that's what I mean by don't stress out about it. Try to go with the flow and make it feel organic. Yeah, okay, I guess we can dive in now. John, do you want to turn on screen sharing, or is it already available?
Should already be available. You should be able to just turn it on and go.
Cool, there we go. Okay, can everybody see the presentation?
Yes.
Cool. Just like you guys can do like the sign language, you know, if you want to. Anyways, okay, I'll let Caitlin go ahead and start off.
All right, writing a gust profile, best practices. Oh, is the button gonna work?
If I can select the right screen.
Okay. All right, what is Gust? And I took this directly from their About page. Gust is a global SaaS platform for founding, operating, and investing in scalable, high-growth companies. Gust's online tools help entrepreneurs start, run, and fundraise for companies and provide deal flow and relationship management for investors. So Gust allows you to organize your company info, receive feedback, resources, and connect with investors. You should keep using it throughout your investment seeking processes.
So basically what Gust is trying to say here is that they're going to hire us to rewrite this statement so that it makes sense to everybody. But beyond that, I mean, it's obviously a powerful tool to help you get started on your journey, right? And it's telling you like, hey, if you can fill in these boxes, let's move to the next stage. So.
Yeah, and if you can't fill out these boxes, then maybe you should do a little bit more research on your company and try to be able to fill in those boxes, because what you're really asking for is a lot of money from people, and nobody wants to hand over a lot of money to something that they're not really that sure about. So if you can't fill out those boxes, you should probably try very hard.
You should put something there at least, and then go
Yeah.
back and reiterate.
Yes.
And like one of my main things, don't do it alone. Like you guys, most of you guys have, are any of you like independent founders right now? Can I see like a show of hands of like independent founders? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You mean,
Five,
you mean
six,
so,
five.
solo
Solo
founders?
entrepreneurs. Yeah.
Solo entrepreneurs. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, so we've got like 5 or 6 people that showed up and waved their hand right on my main screen here. So you have to assume that everybody else here, the other, let's say 20 people. Well, no. Sorry, we'll say 15 people just to be safe. You guys have people who are supposed to be helping you. And this is one of those major things they need to help you. You need to sit down with a team member. You need to reiterate. You need to keep a log. You need to take notes on that process.
And Gust is a really good resource for finding what you need to say, because it's really hard to like just start off with nobody to help you and be like, okay, now what do I say to an investor to even start off the conversation. Gust is a really good place to start because it's going to ask you all the questions that an investor might ask you along the way. So even after SAC, these are the same questions that you're still going to be asked by other investors along the way.
Okay.
All right. Things to know before getting started. This is your first impression with investors. So before you bought your ticket, you sent in your Gust profile, nobody's going to talk to you until after everybody's looked through the Gust profiles. So you're not going to be able to go smile at the investor and give them a really good first impression. This is your first impression. So it needs to look really nice, really crisp, have all the information there. Otherwise, you're not going to be chosen to go on to the next round. And then answer every question. If the necessary info isn't there, you will not be chosen. Don't complete your profile alone if possible. Communicate with your team to write the best answer and have someone else check your work. You're not going to want a bunch of typos in there in the first place. You're also going to want to have your team try to help you answer these questions if you're kind of stuck. And your team is also going to help you word it in a way that's not going to be extra fluff. You're not going to have those extra words in there that are just useless and not really helping you out. And then have the necessary info ready, including your logos, team bios, and projections. Take it one step at a time. You don't have to rush through it. Definitely don't rush through it. Take your time, do one question at a time, do the easy stuff first if that's going to help you, and then come back to the harder stuff when you have more information for those. Keep it short and sweet. Most answers are only 450 characters and some of them are less than that. So before you go answer all these questions in a Google document or whatever, make sure that you are falling within those character limits. And then continue making changes even after SAC.
So I'm sure you guys have all heard KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Is that the typical variety everybody knows of? So we specifically chose keep it short and sweet because that's the original iteration. It's not keep it simple, stupid. Like don't go into this telling yourself, okay, keep it simple, stupid. You're not stupid and it should not be simple. Keep it short and sweet though. So just, encouraging words along the way.
All right, so if you haven't already signed up for your Gust account, you're going to need to sign up for an account. After answering a few questions and making an account, you're going to be directed to the founder dashboard. When I did this on my own just to test out the process, I could not find a link really on this founder dashboard that takes you directly to your profile. It gives you some explanations on other things that you should be doing, or like here it's telling me to form a C corporation because that's going to be easier throughout this process. And then it guides me to like do things with Gust, but it doesn't guide me directly to the profile. The only way I was able to find how to go directly to the profile was to scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page, click on find and apply to relevant investors and accelerators, which took me to the main Gust outside of the founder dashboard. And then there I was able to click company profile and edit each section of the profile. Unfortunately, Gust seems to me to be a little bit outdated and needing some navigation to this area. And I think that this may be a problem with a lot of the people who sign up for the Seattle Angel Conference. They go to make their Gust account and they're like, is this all I do? I make the account. I'm not really sure. There's no navigation to some sort of profile I'm supposed to create. So I think that's a lot of the reason why some people sign up for the conference and don't even do their Gust profile at all, because they get here and they get confused. Hopefully there's another way to do it, but this was the only way I was able to find how to do it.
Yeah, there are other ways to access the system, but like, for the typical user, this is the avenue that you run. Like, this is what you run into. How many of you have ran into this problem? Okay, yeah, a lot more hands. Yeah. And then how many of you just realized that you haven't fully finished your Gust profile? Okay, all right, yeah, and this is a problem. This is the user interface issue that Gust has. Gust was not developed. I mean, it was developed by developers, which is kind of strange, but it wasn't developed with any user interface designers involved or something. I'm not quite sure.
That was definitely confusing for me getting here. I was like, now what? What do I do
I
here?
think I'm going to send them this video at the end of all of this. Anyways.
Next. All right, so first you're going to start with the basics. You're going to put in your logo, industry, location, social media profile links, contact info, etc. You're going to do all the easy stuff first, all the things that you immediately have all the answers to. It's going to feel like a little bit of a win when you can get like a quarter of your profile done right away. So do those first.
Hold on. Take a note of this page. So this is one of our clients. Well, not a client, I guess. John, go ahead. Not a client, I guess.
I at some point here pretty soon, I want people to see what the investors see, not what you see as startups. And so when you're ready for that.
Why don't you go ahead and take over that now? Because this is a good transition point. And then we'll take over after you're done. You're muted, John.
When people come into Gust, they'll end up coming here. So from an investor's point of view, they need to click on being in the right space. Otherwise, they end up in the workspace, which is everything that's on Gust, which is crazy. But we have these active folders, and I am driving people into this registered folder. So when I get both Gust and I get a ticket bought, then people end up in this folder. And so we currently have 54 companies that have signed up for this. And so now here it is, Friday night. It's coming on the weekend. I have to go through all of these really fast. So what do? I go over and I go over and I mouse over the company, and this is what I see. And so that very first sentence and the very first paragraph, and then the numbers along the bottom are the thing that I'm making decisions on. So if these things are not compelling, then I don't click on it. And so John is here. So John, is it all right that I click and go in more detail? John Harris. Rosie.
Sorry,
There's
John.
somebody who's okay with me.
Sorry, John.
Yeah.
You can click mine, John.
Yes.
Yeah, buzz it in. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, buzz it in. Go ahead.
Okay. So I click on that. And so one of the questions that people asked in the session was, how do you manage the privacy? And I assume Kate's going to do something with that. But then notice that I have the overview, the pitch deck, team, executive summary, financials, documents, and we don't use the additional questions. So that's probably going to be empty. But then this paragraph is the only thing that's there, right? So that has to be compelling enough for me to click on these other things and for me to scroll down and look at whatever the other things are, right? But there's more room here to do some stuff. And definitely, you know, if I click in and I look at the deck, sometimes all that people do is fill out the overview and they put the deck in there. And then when you click on the team, there's like nobody on the team, right? And so that lack of detail of filling things out causes people to eject and go back and say, oh, what was that deal again that I needed to do? And then they bounce back to the list as a whole. And in fact, it may be the case that they just build a list. Oh, that one's interesting, and that one's interesting, and that one's interesting, but that one's not interesting. And do that. And that may be all of what they read about you. So this dynamic, I think, helps you understand where you can get stuck pretty quick. I see a question from Joe.
Nope.
I didn't ask a question. Oh, there's lots of questions there
Your
in the
hand-
chat. There's lots of questions there in the chat.
Yeah, your hand is up, so I'll lower your hand. Carlos, your hand is up too. Do you want to ask a question?
I don't have questions. That
All right.
raising of the hand was for the last question.
Okay, fair enough. I see Susan raising her hand. Yeah.
I just have a question on how we go on our own profile to see exactly what the
You cannot. There's an investor view and there's a company view, and they're separate. So that's part of why we're running this workshop, is so you could see that view and understand the dynamics of what the next week is going to look like. Yeah. Christian, you had a question?
Yeah, John. So how does the team look at the business plans, financial projections? Is that something that's critical for the application, or is it really focusing on the overview, pitch, and video?
Well, so from the Seattle Angel Conference point of view, we go from breadth to depth. And so, you know, people are going to scan, and they're going to scan lightly, and they're going to look at a couple of things. There are people that are data geeks, and the data geeks dive deep into specific things. You know, the people that are in love with cash flow projections jump to the cash flow projection before they look at the team. The people that are in love with the product jump to the product before they look at the team. But in the end, they'll sort of scan broadly across this. So having some depth is important, but adding more depth as we get closer and closer to the finals is also important. We'll ask for very specific documents by the time we get into due diligence. So you don't have to have like all of the documents in the document area at the beginning. You just have to have enough there that you get to the quarterfinals so that you can add more later.
Okay, thank you.
I saw a hand up. Luisa, was that correct? No, Marnie.
And then say again. You asking me something?
Marnie had a question.
Sure. I just want to talk about that one line sentence and to what extent you focus that on customer benefit or a 50,000 foot view of problems. In my case, am I talking about failing agricultural soils, failing farms, or am I talking about the benefit to the farmer?
So you notice
the benefit to the farmer.
One of the reasons we did the introductions, even though it took us a significant amount of time, is for you to get perspective on what everybody else was doing as other entrepreneurs that are in the program. And you notice that some people had like a high level concept and said like, I like what Mango Tango does. We're the Wix for Netflix. Bang, right? And so it puts them in a box with that statement. Some people took 2 paragraphs, and I'm still scratching my head trying to understand. Now, you positioned yourself as an advocate, not as a product, and I'm not sure that you intended to do that. But if you intend to do that, I mean, the hard part is out of 60 in an afternoon, you need to be one of the 10 that they remember, right? So how are you going to be remarkable? And the first part is that first sentence, to be compelling with that first sentence. So they choose to go in further. If you do one angle at that, it might bounce off, right? And you do another angle at that, and it might sink in. And that depends on the investor. And our investors are 50% brand new investors that have randomly fallen out of trees. And so they have a really wide range of beliefs about the world. And so that process is going to land for some people, and it's going to bounce off for other people. And what needs to happen is that you get compelling for enough people that they advocate for you as we start slicing through and choosing people. So your goal is to use your words to compel other people to be passionate about seeing more about you.
Can I ask a question quickly?
Yeah, yes.
For the Canadian companies, when they pick the company type there, I see that is mostly for American type, like C Corp, S Corp. Should we just go with the C Corp then?
Yeah, so Seattle Angel Conference will not invest in anything that's not a C Corp or a C Corp like Canadian company, a corporation. But yes, Canadians just mark the C Corp. We do not insist upon it until you have one, and we won't write you the check until you are one, but you can become one. And so it's not a big deal. You just need to become a C Corp or the equivalent by the time you get to writing the check. Other questions? Ken, I see your hand up.
Yeah. So on the question, it sounds like you sort of kind of answered it. We're an LLC right now, and are open to shifting. Don't have to do that before we even get considered, do we?
No, you don't have to do that. I would urge you, as you seek investment from outside people, to switch to a C Corp as soon as is convenient, right? But you don't have to do it for us until you've won, and we want you to write the check. However, if you've won and you take 6 months to get it converted to a C Corp, you won't get the check for 6 months. So I would suggest that if you get to the finals, you should start the process of converting to a C Corp.
Okay. Thanks,
Assad,
John.
I see a question.
Thanks, John.
Assad.
Yeah. Hey, John, my question was that we are a stop, but we are registered in Washington State and not in Delaware. Do we have to move it to Delaware?
No, we don't care whether it's Washington or Delaware. That's not an issue for us. Bruce, how about you?
Yeah, for the video, what would you recommend a good format? Is it more team-focused products or industry challenges?
At least for me, I think that the goal of this is to be compelling enough that people want to see more. And in so much as you can tell sociological things that are hard to pick up out of text, that's a better place to focus, right? And so I would try to start building relationships through the video more than I would try to tell a grand story. But that's me, right? You just have to figure out how to be compelling.
Got it. Thank you.
Danny Lowe.
Yeah. I guess my question would be if we have an LLC in Washington State, can we just open a C Corp holding company in Delaware?
Yeah, there's a bunch of choices. I would talk to your lawyer and figure out what's going to be the easiest path for you. All we care about is that you have a C Corp we can invest in that is rational. I suspect that you don't really want an LLC, that an LLC is not to your benefit after you take outside money. But talk to your lawyer and figure that out. And if your CPA keeps saying you can pass through tax losses, that's the way you should do it, and be an LLC, then you've got the wrong CPA. And you need to get a CPA that understands companies that take outside money. That's usually the thing that causes people to hold on to an LLC long, is that there's somebody telling them that there's tax consequences that are important. But the answer is you're going to lose money for the first several years. So, save those for later. Anyway, Stuart.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, yeah. So the gust profiles, are they mostly used at the angel level, or are they also used for regular VC? And a related question to that is, do the other angel groups in town, like say if we talk to Alliance of Angels, things like that, are they, do they have differences in like how they want to see the gust profiles versus Seattle Angel Conference?
So Seattle Angel Conference is the only one in Seattle that uses Gust at this point. Everybody else is either using spreadsheets or they're using Proceeder. Many of the individual lead investors use AngelList. So I would say AngelList, Proceeder, and Gust are the places to have profiles. There are a dozen platforms out there. The guitar guy, Sierra Guitars, is on WeFunder. It's a form of this same kind of platform. This is primarily used at the crowdfunding and angel funding rounds. By the time you get to VCs, they typically are not using platforms, except perhaps AngelList is being used for discovery. And so the profiles will matter less at the VC level, at a Series A level, where you're taking a $5 million round. They're going to be looking at your slide deck more and less at your profile. The Gust platform and the Angel platforms are designed for volume. Most angel groups see somewhere between 30 to 80 applications a month, and they're sorting through them rapidly to find the 3 that they want to pitch. So out of those 30, they're going to, scan. Oh, there's one. Scan. There's one. And then they're going to invite people in to pitch that month. And so having it there and having it available and making it discoverable is useful both on Proceeder and Gust. There's about 40,000 people on Gust that are angels. They're the old networks. The new networks are shifting around a little bit. But it's a good place to practice. And how many people, raise your hand on the participants thing, how many people went through the valuation exercise that Gus put in place? Yeah, a few. So that valuation thing is actually useful in terms of helping you get a sense about what your community expects out of a valuation. And so I think that may be worth people going through it, because one of the places people stall is around valuation. However, we separate at SAC, we separate, is this a good company from is this a good deal and a good valuation? So the investors will answer the question, is this an investable company? But Kate, the LLC manager, will do the negotiation for, is this an investable deal? And so those two steps are somewhat separated. But people ask questions when the numbers are weird in that first little box. So you should have something reasonable in there. Is that enough questions for me so we can go back to Andrew? Cool, Andrew.
I mean, I was okay with it. Okay, so what we've got here is a screen that is not shared. Give me one moment.
Now I'll move back.
Yeah, it all has to.
Everybody shifted around.
All right, can you guys see the presentation again, or your faces? Or your faces?
Yes, we can see the presentation.
Okay,
Great.
fantastic. All right, so Gust is, or Zoom is doing its thing now. So anyways, okay, whatever. Okay, so we used somebody, John, could you mute yourself? Oh, okay, there we go, cool. Okay, so we used a contestant from the previous Angel Conference, SAC 18. This is their profile before. So this is before we actually had made the changes and we updated things alongside her. We spent probably 5 hours, I want to say, developing this Gust profile. And that's outside of developing the pitch deck and outside of developing a demo reel, a video.
Or any of the supporting documents.
The assets, logos, stuff like that. None of that was included. So we spent 5 hours specifically focusing on the content and the copy.
We really wanted to dig deep in what it feels like to really edit everything and make it sound the way that it's supposed to. Because it's easy to go through and just throw an answer in there when you have time, but it's really important to go back and really like, is this the answer I want to put in there, or do I have more to say about this? So it was kind of fun going through.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I'll let you take over.
All right. So company summary. In 450 characters, briefly explain what your startup does. Keep it simple, honest, and entice viewers to find out more. The main thing here is that you only have 450 characters, and so you need to make it succinct. You need to explain exactly what you do very, very quickly and entice them to want to know more. Because really this is, you saw from John's screen, this company summary is really what comes up first and what they're really going to judge off of first.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't necessarily the summary is very important, obviously. Yeah. But this part here, I mean, it's fantastic because you went from, this is why I wanted to use this as an example. You go from this to this, right? This is the trajectory, the transition.
You definitely look a lot nicer once you filled all the images out and actually filled out all the spots.
If they like what it says in your company summary, otherwise they never see this. So
Yeah.
Keep that in mind too.
Yeah.
The company summary is more powerful than how pretty your pictures are. Yes. So when I said at the beginning of this that we're not talking about assets or logos or videos or pitch decks or anything like that. We're not talking about it here either. We're talking about what you need to say to get the investor interested in you specifically. And all you need to say is, well, what all these blocks are asking you to say.
And yeah, really keep it succinct because it's a small area. You only have 450 characters. I know you want to talk all about your business and everything that you're passionate about, but there's not room. I was like, okay, so for your pitch video, stand out with a video that explains your product and what makes your startup a good investment. This is an optional feature that will help increase the impact of your profile. This is not to be confused with your required pitch deck. And then we have a pitch video example here. If the playback is a little bit off, feel free to just watch and mute your screen. I have a feeling that with Zoom, it might be a little bit delayed.
What happens if we...
And before I get started, this is a really, like they spent money on this.
High production value.
Yeah, it's a high production value video. No one expects that your company that has never even sold a product or gotten off of the ground has a wonderful pitch video like this.
To be clear, this pitch video is actually to get investment to enter the US market, being a German company. So yeah. This company's original advertising is very similar, but it's in another language with different actors. And this is just the updated version trying to get people to purchase it in the US market. So to give you guys an idea, they already have money. They have plenty of money, but it's a good pitch video to kind of exemplify.
What happens if we buy a regular chocolate bar today? Well, first of all, we have no clue what's in there and where it comes from. Have you ever tried to pronounce the ingredient list? When we eat this, we actually flood our body with sugar. That's cool for the sugar rush in the next 5 minutes. But let's be honest, it's just not great for our body in the long term. But what happens next? Well, this packaging will go on a long journey, and it might join the 8 million tons of plastic that get flushed into our oceans every year. And to mess things up completely, we just made our CO2 footprint even worse. And all that for this tiny moment of indulgence in our day-to-day life. Thanks for messing it up, food industry. Now, what if we could turn this whole story around? Like really, in every single aspect. Let's start with organic and fair trade cacao and a natural and short ingredient list. When you try it, you should taste what real cacao tastes like. Hemp seeds, almonds, and other natural ingredients give it a nice crunch and lots of nutrients too. It's sweetened with coconut blossom sugar and has 65% less sugar than a regular chocolate bar. The packaging you're about to throw away is 100% home compostable. It literally disappears in nature. But wait for the best part. For every bar you buy, we plant one tree. Isn't this like the coolest way to save our planet? Every bar donates 10 cents to our partner, Eden Reforestation Projects, who in return plants one mangrove in Madagascar. With New Cow, we wanted a product that is 100% in line with your values. It's truly good for you and good for the planet. Hey, we are the founders of the new company, and together with our great team in Germany, we want to show the food industry that food can be uncompromisingly good.
We're building a portfolio that covers all scenarios between your main meals. Besides New Cow, we've already launched our second product, New Pro, the first truly natural and sustainable protein shake, which is perfect after your workout. And there are many more products to come.
So far, we have avoided 1 ton of plastic waste, we have replaced 30 tons of refined sugar, and planted over 1.5 million trees. Not bad for a small product like this, right? But that's exactly the magic behind it. Consumer goods like this go over the counter millions of times per day. And we want every to be a signal for a better world.
And now it's time for us to take the next step on our journey. And we need you to help us change the way people eat every day.
And to make that happen, we will develop new products, invest in sales and marketing, and most importantly, spread our story. Be part of a new generation of food and benefit from a rapidly growing market. Make the world healthier and greener with us.
So there are some major things
on
that
this,
I like about that, but go ahead, John, first.
Yeah. So one of the things that I find with startups is that they focus way too much on the product and not nearly enough on the business. At the end of this, they actually got to some of the issues of the business, but they took a really long time. And this feels like an Indiegogo campaign more than it feels like an angel campaign. And I would suspect that you want to spend only 20% of your time on your product and the what of what you're doing, and maybe even less on the what. And if you talk about the why of the product, and then and prove that in the core there's a business there, not that there's a project there, right? So having advocacy without a structure, having a project without a engine for revenue, all of that is a really quick way to get to know, right? And so showing the business fundamentals. So when you look at the lean canvas and the 12 questions in the lean canvas, I should be able to get that out of your pitch deck. I should be able to get the answers to that out of the pitch deck, as well as the quality of the team, the size of the market, and your go-to-market strategies. Those 15 things ought to be coming out of that for me, or at least enough of a hint that I lean in the right direction so that I ask the question about them in the right place so that you can pop up your lean canvas and show how it's all related. This was a marketing campaign for people that cared about the product, not a campaign for people that cared about the business.
That was an important part of why it was a fantastic video, because the fact of the matter is this video is great. It was compelling. It really pushes into your feels and makes you care about things, but you're not virtue signaling to an investor. Don't do any of that. But the great thing about it was they did show the team. They did talk about the obligation. Initially,
where they're going to spend money. They're going to spend money on marketing and advertising.
Initially, I thought that the ad itself was so intricately designed for a campaign that I assumed that it was just a campaign sample video. I did not think that the company was real at first. I actually had to go in depth and do research because I was like, this is so plastic. I don't like what's going on here. So don't go too deep into these. Don't try to go like crazy with production value at this level. Like this video is what you do for Indiegogo, or you send to a group of investors like a venture capital group where you're like, hey, maybe they'll take a look at this video, or you have somebody refer them to it or something. But this is a couple steps down the road. The best pitch video I've ever seen was just a guy sitting at his desk with printouts, and he kept holding up the printouts with graphs on them and talking about what was wrong with the industry and pointing at them and explaining it. 3 minutes, put them down, video over. And it was that simple. That can be a pitch video. How do you want to convey yourself to the investor? Well, a great way of doing it is actually convey yourself to the investor. Talk about the problems, show the problems, sit in front of a screen and explain it really quickly. It's not hard to do that, right? Like everybody here can talk about the problem they're trying to solve. That's what you guys are best at, or you should be best at by now. So you can do that in front of a camera and you have your 3-minute video. Make sure to talk about financials. If you can get a team member to sit with you, do that.
What is the biggest thing that you can convey through video that you have a hard time conveying through text?
Emotion.
And so what is the foundation of a sale?
An emotional response. To a need.
So
or a want.
for me,
To a need.
so that's the little magic bit of a video, is that you have to demonstrate passion for your business, and you have to be compelling about that passion enough to infect the observer enough that they want to dive down the rabbit hole with you. And so it's an emotional relationship-based thing more than it's a data-based thing. The data's in the text. You already did all of that. You can sort of anchor the core pieces, but the thing that you can't do effectively, or at least I can't do effectively in writing, is to convey that passion effectively. So
I think one thing that I saw.
However, I believe that the text in the first paragraph is more important than anything else, except for completeness of touching every box.
One thing that I saw with watching people's pitches is when they had a personal story that, like, obviously it was succinct. When they had a personal story that they were able to explain, like, why they're really passionate about their particular industry or whatever, what it is that they're doing, it made me want to listen to them more, because I'm not going, I don't really care to invest in somebody that's not really passionate about what they're doing. But if they can tell me this story that, like, explains how they got here and why they're so invested in making this work, I'm much more likely to invest in them.
Yeah.
And you can't really, like, put that in a 450 character box, like why you're super passionate about this.
We have a fantastic example actually in this chat. Catherine, the last time when she attended, she spoke about her company and why she was so passionate about it. And it made me remember what she was doing. And so, you know, if you can attach your passion to something, if you can make it personal for everyone in the room, then, you know, we're pretty empathetic creatures. Figure out how to play on that. So
definitely makes you remember it, for sure.
Yeah.
You can watch 20 pitches and be like, I don't even remember the face to the company that was doing that. But if you can remember the story that they told, and you're like, oh, I remember that person. I remember their story about that. And wow, I that really resonated with me. You'll remember it for a while. All right.
What? Not again.
Don't keep playing. All right, so your pitch deck. A pitch deck is a digital slide presentation that explains your product or service and why your startup would be a good investment. This is the primary tool you will be using when pitching to investors. A pitch deck is required for everyone. If you're going to be asking for a lot of money, you should have some visual representation of what your company is doing and how you're going to use that money.
Yeah, and this is another one of those things where if you're confused, what is the recommended time for the? I'm going to answer Tyler really quickly here. The time for the pitch video, I wouldn't ever go over like 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes. Anyways, sorry. So with the pitch deck, I totally forgot what I was saying. Let's go to the next slide. That'll be better. I'll remember then.
All right, pitch deck continued. Slides to include in your pitch deck: vision and value proposition, customer problem, target market and opportunity, your solution, revenue model or business model, traction and validation or roadmap, marketing and sales strategy, team, financials, competition, investment, and use of funds. And then I added a pro tip: add an extra slide at the end with your company name. From previous pitches, we watched a lot of people doing pitches, and at the end, they didn't say their company once again. And so you listen to this whole pitch and then you're like, oh wait, what was the company name? I don't remember now. And now it's too late to ask a question because they've gone on to other things. So it's really important to remind everybody what your company name is at the end, just to give everybody a refresher. And having a slide at the end that has your logo, that says your name, is going to remind you to close out and be like, and by the way, this is my company name, just so you know. And then don't worry if your pitch deck isn't stylized. Good information is going to beat style every time. One of the last meetings that we went to, people were pitching, and a bunch of people jumped in right then. They're like, yeah, sure, I'll pitch. I wasn't prepared for this, but I'll pitch. And they made a pitch deck right then and there. White background, black text, didn't matter. It was there.
Joe,
it didn't
Joe
need to
did
be
one,
pretty.
right? Joe, you put one together last meeting, didn't you? I think you're muted, but
I did, yeah.
Yeah. It was pretty impressive for being so offhand.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be pretty. It just needs to be there.
Yeah, and it was effective. It conveyed a lot of information in a very succinct way, and he built it during the time that he was told that we were going to be doing pitches, and he decided he was going to do pitches until he finally put it out there.
That was great.
Yeah, and it was compelling. We all listened to it. We all appreciated it. We loved what he had to say. He even put so much information together, he almost went over the time. So
yeah, and don't get distracted with trying to make it stylized. Like if the information is there, that's great. If you're going to make it pretty, great, but don't make it distracting pretty. Like don't add a bunch of fluff crap in there that nobody is really going to care about. All right. And then your team can make or break a good idea, and as experienced investors fund teams that make the idea successful, not the idea themselves. Send a request to each team member to fill out and to join and fill out a profile. If every team member is active, you're showing investors that your team is focused on being successful.
Add your profile pictures. Do it.
Yeah.
Like right now. You guys can do it right now while you listen to us.
Yeah, especially since we're not going to necessarily remember each individual person. There are a lot of people going to be in the Angel Conference, probably more than 60 people that they're going to be looking through the profiles of. And if they can see a face attached to that, they're going to start remembering you and your company a little bit more.
So Kate's asking about the profile picture. It's through that same stupid portal. We can show you at the end of the call. If
Yeah. You have to edit it. I do believe it's on this area in your team.
You go up to the top on your account, and you click on your picture on the thing that says profile, and then it'll show an icon, and then on the far right it will have a little edit pencil, and you click on that and you can change the image.
See, John knows this information because he has to tell every angel investor how to do this.
All right. Your personal profile, make yourself shine. Investors want to know you have the know-how to make your startup successful. Include all relevant experience. So make sure this is all filled out. Like I said, they're investing in the team. If they don't think that the team is going to make it, if it's a great idea, the team could still bring it down. So really, if your team is not showing that you have the know-how and that you know what you're doing, you're willing to go here and fill out all of this information, you're probably not going to be chosen. All right, customer problem. What problem are you solving for your customers? If it doesn't solve a problem, it's time to go back to the drawing board.
This is one of those things I told you guys all about earlier. Like I preface this with like, hey, I've been there. I've had to put down my own babies. Like I've had to put startups down, and I feel the pain. If you guys cannot figure out what this is asking for at every level, you have to either figure out how to make the research work for it without being incredibly biased and being dishonest with yourself, or you have to pivot. Sometimes sometimes if people have to pivot, it's typically like they pivot within industry or they pivot with the same idea to a new customer base or something. So it's not like I'm not telling you take your idea and throw it in the trash. I'm saying like you might have to sculpt it a little bit more or change it. But if you can't figure out these answers, it's something that. What problem did the Rubik's Cube solve? I mean, I got to tell you, it solved a lot of hours of my life. Anyways.
All right, product or service. What does your startup offer to solve your customers' problems? Give a list of products or services and why they should choose your company.
Everybody get that?
That's pretty succinct.
It's straightforward, super straightforward.
Very
Go ahead,
succinct.
yeah.
So our company, we've just pivoted to add a marketing bio board. So we do smart living air purification with genetically modified plants. Picture like a refrigerator sized air purifier. and UVC light that kills coronavirus. But we have one whole end of it that was empty, so we're throwing an advertising board on it. And I'm still struggling with like how I quickly say about all of that without overwhelming people.
Well, like John was saying earlier.
One of the things you need to do.
John was saying earlier.
Go ahead, Andrew.
No, it's all right. Go ahead.
So one of the things you need to do is to demonstrate traction, and traction is not in the form of I have the idea that I can put ads there, but that you have a bunch of people that have bought ads there, right? And the idea of it and the proof that it's happening are different. And so in so much as you are throwing things into the pile that have not been proven in terms of customer engagement and customer cash coming in, then that will be of a lower value to the investor. And for you specifically, for how you use words, you keep trying to add a lot of words on things so you can use these buzzwords on things. You need to, talk more like George Bush, right? Really short sentences with not lots of adjectives, really short sixth grade language for people that are really diverse in their world perspective. And then if you're compelling with that, the other things will come out in the conversation later. And if you are not doing the compelling short word thing, then adding more words to it doesn't help it get more compelling.
Yeah, if you're having trouble breaking down your product and service, figure out what it is about your product or service that you can state in a very technical way that causes people to want to engage with it emotionally as well. Because just like a product on the shelf, you want the investor to get emotional about your product too. So if you can figure out how to trigger that with everything that you build on this, I mean, we spend hours rewriting headers for websites, literally just hours, just rewriting copy and, for clients and whatever other reasons, for John, for so on and so forth. Like one day a group of keywords will work to drive traffic and then they won't work the next day. And you have to figure out like, okay, how can I say the same compelling thing and drive traffic on this statement? And so you have to figure out how to do that emotionally on every level, every step of the way with everything your business is doing. I don't know what kind of emotional responses John gets out of the product and service region, but some of the other investors might be more forthcoming.
It's important in the product or service to be able to define the box that you're in. And there will be a lot of technical investors that will want to dive into the technical details. And so you will have to have them at some point. However, not all of the investors will want to dive down that particular hole. And so really the goal is to frame the what enough that you can anchor it so that they can then figure out how the business addresses that and then focus on the why. What's the value you're creating in the world that doesn't exist now? And if you're not clear on the why and you can't communicate that in the product part, you have to communicate the what, but you have to communicate the why. You may not have to do a lot of the how until the due diligence when the technical people want to dive deep on the how.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank
not a
you very
problem.
much.
All right, next is your target market. Who is the ideal customer group for your product or service? Who is the ideal customer group
All right.
for your product or service?
I was just waiting on John. John, did you have something to say, or? No. Okay. All
Okay.
right.
Who is the ideal customer group for your product or service and your brand? How many individuals make up this market? And do you have a buyer persona? A lot of people do not have a buyer persona, and it's definitely a very important part of making a business and trying to market to anybody. If you don't know who you're talking to, then you're kind of floating in the water with no direction.
Yeah, actually, these two kind of go hand in hand. So what I was getting at earlier is when the investor comes here and they read about your product or service, they need to feel the pain that the customer you're targeting is feeling. Like they have to empathize with it. They have to understand that, like, yeah, that is a painful problem for them, and it sounds like you might be able to solve it. And then that comes into where, well, did you figure out who the market is that needs this problem solved? Did you figure out where they live, how they function, what they do on a daily basis? So the idea of building a buyer persona is like, who is actually buying your product, right? I'm sure a lot of you have gone, I'm sure that every one of you have heard everything that's in this slideshow before in different components and different places and pieces here and there. You know, eventually, you figure it out, you iron it out, and it works. But you know, like when you're targeting a specific market here with your target market, you want to make sure that you know who they are, you know where they live. That you're not saying like, oh yeah, there are 50 million of these people in the world, so that's my target market. It's like, no, your target market's not 50 million people. Like who are your earliest adopters, right? Like who's the first person who's going to give you money? Is your product worth $1? Have you sold a single product? Can you go sell it for $1? Can you get 10 customers to buy it for $1 right now? If you can, you should be trying to do that. You know, if you can't get even people to buy it for $1, you should figure out who your target market is. If it's not the target market issue, it's a product issue.
If you can't figure out your target market, there's probably a problem with the product or something along the way.
Yeah, see, John needs to speed up. Okay, so your business model. What strategy will you employ to build, deliver, and retain company value, e.g. profits? How's your startup going to be successful? What are your plans for launching and scaling? Like with this, you actually have to be succinct. You have to, it's quick. You only have so much space to put in there. You need to make sure that you're actually talking about what does your scaling model look like? Have you thought about a scaling model? If you haven't, go look one up. Go, you know, just reiterate it in your own terminology with your own numbers in there until it makes sense.
And also, if you're looking for investment, an investor doesn't want to see a company that's just going to be doing the same humdrum things after they get money as they were doing before. They want to see that you're going to grow because you got funding.
Yeah, and your business model is never like social media. That's not a business model. Somebody said earlier they were having a problem with the business model. I think so this might be a good time to address that.
Oh, I think it was just, what if I don't have a business model?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I was going to say, if you don't have a business model, then I don't know how an investor would understand how to, like, what they're going to be investing.
All right, I can put a finer point on that. My question was a business plan in a different section.
Business plan.
Yeah, I'm with you on the model.
Okay.
Question is about the plan, brother.
Okay. Okay. All right. Customer segments.
Within your target market, who is going to benefit most from your services? Connect with your brand and spread the word about how fantastic your product or service is.
Yeah, if you guys haven't realized by now, there's a ton of overlap in here. So like, you know, your target market, your product and service, your business model, and your customer segments, these are all from the same package of information. When you determine who that user is, you determine how big your market is, you start to develop all of this stuff from that. If it's not all together, an investor will see that. If they look at one part of it and they read another part of it, like something doesn't line up here, they didn't even mention the core audience that they're mentioning now in the customer segments. So John, I don't know if you want to chime in on customer segments. I know you've had quite a bit to say at past meetings.
Yeah, for me, for startups that are early, I get on the soapbox at open copies regularly about your goal is to get to cash flow positive as fast as possible, and sub markets that get you to cash flow positive fast are different than markets that get you to big. And so solving for big is a market size problem for later, and it's part of your go-to-market strategy. But right now, your urgent need is to sprint as fast as you can to a stable point with cash flow positive and understand where that is. And we will see that in your cash flow projection. So where is your point of stability and how are you going to get there? And how many customers do you have to have? And how much money do you have to spend on customer acquisition to achieve that? And your cost of customer acquisition goes down substantially when you know who your customer is, specifically who your customer is, and know how to reach them, because then your cost to find them goes way down. And you can have a perfectly good company where that perfectly good company is spending huge amounts of money on customer acquisition and it's not profitable, and it won't be profitable until they figure out the specifics of their market.
And you make even more money, even quicker when you can make them really happy about your brand and want to talk about your brand. If they're going to all your friends and getting you free marketing and getting all their friends to sign up for your platform or buy your product, that is free advertising. You want to connect with these users first so that they can go rave about you elsewhere.
Sales and marketing strategy. Sales and marketing strategy. What is your customer acquisition and retention strategy? Detail how you will promote, sell, and create customer loyalty for your products and services. Okay, this has to be, before Caitlin's going to continue reading the rest of this and kind of explain more, but before you continue on with this is probably one of the harder parts of what we do. The sales and marketing strategy is pretty intricate. It's pretty in depth. I don't think any investor expects you to be able to pack 20 pages of documentation into a 450 character box. So that being said, you definitely have to put together what you can into that area. You'll have to say, you know, anyways, Caitlin will continue with these. These are just some examples.
So possible, but not necessarily great tactics are billboards, social media, emails, in-person, bus ads, paid ads, phone book ads, commercials, print ads, word of mouth. These are just a bunch of random tactics you could be using. They're not all good. Don't use phone book ads, please.
Yeah, and this is like the 30,000 foot view. It's like, here are some things that you could do, but each one of these go under different types of strategies you would use to generate traffic. You'd use paid ads to generate new traffic. You'd use phone book ads to target a specific demographic, and you have your audience targeting, what it's appropriate for, and then as well as that, you have your retention strategy. Like, how are you going to continue retaining users? What are you going to offer users as promotions? How are you going to scale that base? What is it that's going to make it sweeter? Assad, did you have a question still?
So for me, I think it's important for people.
I had a question, but I
ahead.
have a incoming phone call. My question is that we are a SaaS business actually, and we are very, it's purely based on inbound marketing. So we don't do any, we don't have any sales team, and everything we do is just social media marketing and things like that, right?
Okay.
Most of it, what you are explaining, is for outbound marketing, and I need to understand.
Social media is in there as well. But yeah, so for inbound marketing, there are only so many avenues you can really use. There are referral based, there's sponsorships, and then there's social media, right? Like these, the only real avenues that work well for that. And then there are also, like when you're putting together a market strategy, this is why I say, like, you can't fit a 30-page document into here. You can talk about what your main focus strategies are, but you're not going to go into in-depth detail about, like, well, we're going to run our social media campaigns X amount of days per week. We're going to target people within this specific customer segment on these platforms. Like, you're going to have to develop a buyer persona for each segment. You're going to have to do all of your due diligence when it comes to actually scaling that base. These are like overviews of different components. These aren't even explained. And that's the whole point of having them here, is like to explain that these are not the end product. Like, there are different types of marketing: inbound, referral, outbound, and then you have interruption, which is just where we slam crap in your face on YouTube all day long, and that doesn't really do much good for anybody anymore, unless it's compelling, unless you can target really well, because then it does work for a specific audience. If that's your audience, then it should be used there. So like I said, these are talking points to kind of guide the rest of the information.
And then also, like, how are you going to use these tactics for a successful marketing plan? You're not just going to list off, oh, we're going to do paid ads. Okay, what are you going to do with your paid ads? Like, is that going to do anything for you? Are you actually going to bring anybody in through that? Explain a little more deeply, like, where you plan to take these tactics.
Yeah, then there's a lot of cost per acquisition that goes into that too. It's like, how much did it cost you to get that one customer? If you can project that, then that's a pretty solid on the financials, where you can project how far you have to go into the future. Like if you say, Assad, if you guys are running social media and you guys are getting organic traction on that, you say, I put in an hour of time into social media campaigns and I got 3 users back. And then the lifetime value of those 3 users is X dollars. I now know that I can generate X amount of dollars on X amount of time input, right? So, you're still putting stuff out there in the world to get people in. So you're still spending time on the product. So you have to divide the amount of time that you're spending by the profit. So, or vice versa. Yeah.
Would you agree that it is very hard to get the acquisition cost for an inbound marketing like a SaaS based, because we have freemium model and we have over 1,300 developers, using
I would.
And so I think when we are calculating, are you talking that? Are you talking about the revenue generating customers? What are you talking? So are you calculating based on how many revenue generating customers do we have, or how?
Well, that really depends on your model. I mean, so if you're looking at a subscriber base that you want to convert a specific percentage every X amount of days, like how long does it take from a freemium user to go to a paid subscriber? Because you're going to have to track that model as well to see if it's advantageous to even try to get subscribers.
Yes.
Do you want subscribers or do you want purchasers? Your direct route to revenue may actually be, like the Adobe model. Adobe went to an entire subscription model. You're talking, this company took a hit on the stock market, like negative 200 points from where they were, and then recovered to be even larger than they were 2 years later. It's these subscription models are very powerful, but you have to figure out, like, where does your freemium model end? At what point in time do they convert? What features convert more often? So this all goes into your marketing strategy. Like, how are you going to develop this? How are you going to look at it? Are you going to constantly alter your plan of what you're targeting and start to identify the groups and specifically target those groups for the services that they need, or the I guess in your case, the specific components of your software that solve their heartache? Are you targeting that? Because you probably don't have enough data to yet. With doing inbound marketing, it's pretty hard to track that, really, because you're not going to get a lot of interaction data unless you have your website very well tracked and all of your funnels very well tracked. But that's what this is asking. How do you plan on doing that?
Hey, John, can I ask one quick follow-up question also?
Sure, what?
So we are trying to follow playbook. GitHub, Atlassian, which are really multi-billion now. They targeted developers, they built the developers, freemium model just like us. And so they were never trying to. And in their case, it's very clear that the users of the platform are ones very clear that the users of the platform. It's true in our case also. So they did not go after the enterprise directly. They did not go after the enterprise. In their case, the developers become the advocate within the organization. We're trying to follow the same playbook. In that case, it's kind of hard to quantify.
Do you have the same cash that they have?
Say again, John?
Investment.
Say again, John?
Do you have the same cash that they have?
Same cost of acquisition?
So the problem when you use somebody else as an example and you say we're trying to follow that playbook, then you also have to have the same resources to follow that playbook. And a lot of those playbooks are designed for people that have a pile of money. And if you've got a pile of money, you can do the go big, go home kind of thing, or you can do the build a big community before I start charging thing. But if you don't have a big pile of money and you don't have a compelling evidence that you're going to get a community out of this, so nobody's going to put money on your dream community, then you have to do a different pathway. And so in your cash flow projection, your 3 to 5 year cash flow projection, there's a marketing component, and that marketing component pays for the repeatable process that produces customers. And if your process is not repeatable and you cannot predict how much money you have to spend, you do not have product market fit. And if you're not at product market fit, you still have research to do, and you should not be trying to do scale. So product market fit is a turning point where you move from understanding the submarket I want to exploiting the submarket I want so that I grow very fast. And when you try to grow very fast and you don't know your submarket, then you just wallow in the swamp and spend money. And then angels are nervous about that because we see very many wreckages in the swamp.
So we do have financial projections. We have the plan, and we know exactly what we need that's the reason why we are raising some money here, because the missing component is some of the money that we want to use on social media marketing and things like that. So absolutely, I know this may not be the right forum at this minute to go into the detail, but we do have some of that, and we'd love to share, discuss it with you, or with you. We'd love to share.
Yeah, so I mean, like with large corporations, like
we dive into this at the open coffee every Tuesday morning.
All right.
Yeah, and I'm cool to hang out afterwards for probably 45 minutes after we're done here. So if anybody wants to continue talking, I'm fine with that, as long as John's willing to leave the room open. Anyways, so these options here are like, these are kind of telling you like, hey, what kind of marketing, this is supposed to get you thinking about what type of marketing you're going to be doing. Like, are you going to focus on social media? Are you going to do a combination of social media and emails? Are you going to do in person, which is like, you're going to go to events and so on and so forth, conferences like this. I guess this is technically like an in-person event, but it's now virtual. So, things like this, like, do you guys come here to network? Yeah. What's your, are any of you looking to sell your product to this direct group of people? Yeah. So there you go. Okay. Anyway, so this is a type of marketing avenue. Like, how are we going to do it? Well, I'm going to grow my base by going to meetups and scaling that into a digital structured strategy, so on and so forth. I'm just, paraphrasing here. Anyways.
Competitors. Describe the competitive landscape and your competitors' strengths and weaknesses. If direct competitors don't exist, describe the existing alternatives. It's almost guaranteed that you have competitors. I don't know how many clients have come to us and we're like, okay, so let's figure out your market. Like, how are everybody else doing in your market? And they're like, we don't have any competitors. Yes, you do. Let's go. I can Google it right now and I can find 3 other bridal shops within 6 miles. So let's be serious here. So you probably have competitors, whether or not you're a new company, whether or not you've come up with this crazy idea that nobody's thought of before, there are existing alternatives. So definitely put something there.
Another thing to consider is like when you break into a new market that's new to you, at least, but you've come up with something very revolutionary, there's oftentimes a chance that you're just not calling it what the industry professionals are calling it when you're trying to figure out if they've created something similar. So it's good to, to interact with other people who have been in the industry, like reach out to somebody, be like, hey, have you heard of anything like this? And see if you can get some help, because sometimes you're just not calling it the right name and you could be just replicating a product that's already on the market.
Yeah, if you're looking for competitors who also make pizza, you might be searching pizza places and come up with no pizza places. But if you search Italian restaurants, you might find a bunch of Italian restaurants who also offer pizza. So it might be just what you're searching, and really.
And that's not to dismay you. Like, you just have to figure out when you see a competitor, what's your unique value proposition, right? Like, what do you offer that's more important, or that's more valuable than what your competitors offer?
They may not offer exactly what you do, but you may be taking some of their customers if you gain market share. Do your research and find out what they are missing.
Exactly that. All right, competitive advantage.
What is your company's competitive or unfair advantage? This can include patents, first mover advantage, unique expertise, or proprietary processes or technology. What makes you better than what's already available or better equipped to be successful over your competitors? Sometimes a small, agile company can surpass a slow, hulking giant that's been around for 20 years. Something that we've seen with a lot of companies is they're like, oh, but this big company is already doing it. Microsoft is already doing it. Yeah, Microsoft may already be doing it, but they've got this huge platform that they have to go, if they want to make any changes to the platform, they have a lot of coding to fix, or they've got a lot of marketing to do to get ready for this. They have a lot of processes that are going to take a long time to fix and to offer more than what they're already offering. A small agile company can make a website in a couple days and have something on the market and only have 3 people on payroll maybe, and be able to bust this out really quickly. Sometimes that's your competitive advantage.
Microsoft is a pretty agile example, but at the same time, I would say that anybody in this room who used to work for Microsoft, which I'm sure there is at least one in here somewhere, probably understands the density of bureaucracy that happens between board meetings. I don't know if you guys have ever attended a large corporate board meeting before, but usually it ends with one beginning the next one that happens next week. So anyways,
let's take 6 months of meetings to actually decide that we're going to add these features to our platform.
Yeah. So yes, you have to remember, if there's a large competitor out there, it's okay. That's okay. What's your advantage? I don't care about how big they are. I don't care about how big you are. That's why you're here asking for money, is so I can bring you up, up that ladder more, right? So we can figure out how to take you guys to the place where you need to be, where you can compete with that competitor. It should be you should be readying yourself for battle. It's supposed to be exciting. Don't get dismayed by competitors in the space.
And current funding round, open a new round by filling out the following information. Provide realistic numbers. Don't ask for $1 million if you don't have a plan in place that requires it.
I feel like John has something to say here.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
There's time. Okay, so for funding, this may be applicable to other health or medical ventures. So I'm wondering if we're interested in potentially partnering with academic medical institutions or gaining research and grant funding. Do you have any potential resources for how we could write out a model where the revenue or the funding that we're gaining is also the revenue that we're generating? Like, for example, if you gain a research or grant fund, that's funds, but that is like also could potentially be like the revenue.
I mean, is it, well,
No,
John,
no, it isn't the revenue, and it's important for you not to think of it as revenue. It's non-dilutive funding, and that's important. It comes with string, that's also important. And for healthcare in the United States, NIH is a very good source of grants. They're, from the SBIR or the STTR pathway, they do a very good job of driving that kind of research grants, but that's not revenue for the company. That's a grant proposal thing. And you should put that in a different box than if you're selling product, unless you intend for this thing to be a grant service company. And then the probability of getting outside money for a grant service company is near zero.
Thank you for the examples.
Now, jumping back to the question of a current funding round. A current funding round from an angel point of view is something that will get you to a milestone. A milestone is something that changes fundamentally the valuation of your company. So it's not about me adding a particular feature or hiring a developer. It's about me doing something that makes the productivity of the team go up. And so now I've somehow fundamentally reduced risks, and I fundamentally increased the value of my company. I get to sales. I go and I get a partner somewhere that's engaging with me in some way, where I once had a company worth $1 million, I now have a company worth $2 million. That's a win, right? So I take and I put $200,000 into your company. You take your company revenue from 10K MRR to 100K MRR, fundamentally different value for the company now.
I have a question, and then that is, if this round is basically a part of a bigger round, like say if you're raising a 1.5 and then if this is 200K is part of that, so how do we show that here?
Well, are you looking for the 200K?
Well, in Seattle, it's very unlikely in Seattle that you will get one check for 1.5 million. You almost always at that size will have to do a syndicate. And so the thing that you're hunting for is a deal lead. So have you got a deal lead? If you do have a deal lead, then our 200K will join your syndicate and follow the terms that your deal lead sets, assuming we like the deal's structure. If you don't have a deal lead, then the question is, does Kate want to be the deal lead and set the terms of the deal and lead that deal? And that's, again, part of the negotiation with the process of closing the deal. I would suspect that the $1.5 million being a round number suggests that it's probably not, it's not the smallest milestone you could hit that would allow you to fundamentally change the value of your company. And I suspect that, you know, think about when your next round of funding is. So if I give you, like it asks security type is going to be a convertible note or it's going to be a preferred equity. If you do a convertible note, our expectation is that within 12 months, you have gotten another round, right? And that you're on to your next round. So whatever you're raising this time needs to last 12 months. But by the time you get to 12 months, you now have the next round of funding. So what does that round of funding look like? And how does the milestone that you hit with this funding open up the door so that you're part of the group that gets the next round of funding instead of the part of the group that doesn't get the next round of funding? So 66% of seed rounds do not get their Series A. And so we would like to have some sense that you've thought out how you're going to be in the top third of Series A deals later on because you've hit the right set of milestones over the last year.
All good? Okay. All right. So be realistic. I mean, if you're seeking 1.5, I guess in this case, like John said, yeah, that's what you're seeking.
And also, like, make sure that you're explaining later where you're going to be using $1.5 million. Don't just ask for $1.5 million from somebody like, hey, give me a bunch of money. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but
I need about this much.
I might need like that. That would really help.
So I have a clarifying question. So could you say how you would fill this out, John, if somebody knows they need 1.5 to get to a bigger milestone? And they wanted to convey what, you know, they
so if I'm taking,
what would you do for this? Would you seek the 250 or would you seek the 1.5 in this form?
So essentially you're trying to communicate progress. And so if you can communicate, you know, have I taken money before? No, I've never taken money before. Asking for 1.5 million is a lot of money to ask with no social validation. So it may make more sense to ask for 250, 300, 500,000 to get a small group to hit a small milestone that produces social validation that then leads to the 1.5 round later. So at the pre-seed level, first round of funding, early pre-product market fit, it probably makes more sense to take the 250, 300K round and hit something and plan on raising in 6 months and plan on doing a 500 to 750K round later that then proves that you hit another thing that gives you substantial social validation on your capacity of your team to execute on milestones, right? And then by the time you get past 1 million, then you're starting to hit institutional groups and they really want to give you 5 or 10 million. And you really need to be building up the social validation enough so that they will give you the 5 million, right? And so that's where you're trying to build momentum to get to. So an early small, less than 500K round, an early small, slightly less than 1 million round, a Series A round of bigger than 5 million, that pattern is something we see semi-regularly. Now, while I've got the mic, one of the things that we know is where you sit makes a difference on your valuation. If you ask an investor in Boise, you get a different expectation of valuation than in Seattle, which is different than San Diego, and it's different than Seattle, right? And so that process of making a valuation and seeking money and giving parts of your company away at a certain price is something that you need to think out a little bit. Just going to the Bay Area, looking at all the media, taking a valuation out of the Bay Area and then trying to sell it in Boise is not going to work.
And just one clarifying question. I understood validation. I didn't understand when you put the adjective social in front of it. I think of it as just executing on your plan. Is there something you mean different when you say the word social in front of it?
Deborah, why should I believe you?
Well, I just think if we had a small milestone,
I
and
mean, I go over to Danilo and I listen to his pitch, and he says a bunch of things, and he says a bunch of good things, and you say a bunch of good things. How do I know that either one of you is interesting? Well, I go talk to my friend, right? My friend is my social validator. And angels network with other angels. They also network with venture capitalists. And so as you go through the system and the venture capitalist calls down to the Alliance of Angels guy, and the Alliance of Angels guy calls down to some club guy. He says, how is this person to work with? Did they do what they said they do? And the answer is no, they were a pain in the ass. And all of a sudden your phone calls stop getting answered.
excellent, John. Thank you. Sometimes an old school word was reputation, but I get what you, social validation is, I think, a good term as well. Thank you.
All right, to continue, funding history, provide information about previous funding rounds that your company has raised. Be honest about the funds that you've raised. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 2 minutes. So let's
We're
wrap
gonna
it.
straight through. Yeah.
Be honest about the funds you've raised. Not only does this tell investors how much money it's taken to get this far or how much money that you may still have, but it tells them how much faith others have placed in your startup. Annual financials. Again, be honest. Investors are going to scrutinize these numbers, and if they look suspicious, they're not going to choose you, or they're going to ask questions later, and you're going to have to be honest and be like, yeah, I kind of made up those numbers, sorry. So try your best to make to estimate future projections. They're not going to be perfect, of course. Business plan. What is your plan to be successful? Investors want to see a long-term plan in place before they hand you large amounts of money. This should be a detailed document that outlines all aspects of the business, including industry, marketing, finance, personnel, and operating procedures. I know that not everybody has a huge business plan. That's obviously a work in progress for any starting company.
I would look up one-page business plan templates, just as a side note, but we can come back and talk about this after we're done.
Financial projections. Do your best to estimate 5 years of financial projections. Once again, be honest and realistic. And then supplemental documents. Anything else to add? You might have graphs or anything, just any extra stuff that you can throw in there that's really going to throw things in your favor. Only one startup gets funding in the SAC 19. Are you going to stand out to be the one?
So it's pretty difficult to assume that you're going to stand out and be this one character, obviously. So don't take it like a challenge, but it is definitely a challenge. John, go ahead.
So it's important to recognize that we've made 18 conferences so far, but we're in 49 companies. And so there's typically side deals that come up. And so the goal is not to win SAC. The goal is to find a champion that will love you enough and force their friends and family to invest with you because they're in love with what you're doing. And that happens by building connections. So while the gust profile is important to get into the pitches are important to build relationship with the individuals and to capture the minds of someone who will then introduce you to your champion. Yes, Margie.
I have a question about the financials. How deep do they have? He just said 5 years, and I've done a 5 year, but I don't think that's as realistic as a 3 year. And if I have detailed on my 3, is that good enough? If I have detailed on my 3, is that good enough?
It's always a hand wave at some level. And so the question is, in my mind, 5 to 7 years from now, you're going to be a certain size company, right? You're going to be $1 billion company or $100 million company or a $10 million company. Each of those pathways has different work that you have to do. So if you start at, I want to be a $1 billion company, and you work backwards from year 7 to year 6 to year 5, all the way back, you have to achieve certain milestones to make the next year possible. If you say I'm at 0 revenue now, or I'm at 10K revenue now, and I'm going to be at 10 million next year, like, I don't believe you, right? And so that's what, when she keeps saying be realistic, you have to be able to express how the money you spend now and how the time your staff spends now produces the revenue next year that you intend. And if you then project that out to year 7, so that I'm big enough to go IPO, or I'm in year 5 and I do my merger and acquisition, how much revenue do I have? What's the industry multiple for that exit to look like? And work your way backwards year after year. And it can be pretty fuzzy in year 5, but by the time you get to month 3, it ought to be awfully specific, right? And so if you do quarter by quarter in the 5-year, in sort of a hand wavy sort of way, and then you have a 13-week, very detailed rolling cash flow for the next quarter, that combination is typically a win. But understand, you're going to take money, and that money is going to come into your business, and it's going to change the arc of your business. And so there should be inflections in your cash flow projection. And if you show a nice, clean, MBA smooth hockey stick curve, we know you didn't actually do your math.
So you're saying, yeah, put 5 years. You want something for 5 for the application. You want something for 5 for the application.
We want to know what target you're aiming at. Any other questions or thoughts? Andrew, anything you want to put a pin in?
I mean, I could add a lot, really. I feel like it would be better served just answering people's questions while they have some of my time. So if anybody wants, like, content help, or I mean, for financial projections and stuff like that, you're definitely going to want to bother John. I mean, I can do them, but I don't even want to advise on how to do them. I don't do that part. Caitlin does that stuff. Anyways, but I'm more than happy to help with, like, if you guys are having problems with your market segmentation, your marketing strategy, like business plans, business outlines, things like that. Like, if you guys have questions right now that you want to try to just, rapid fire at me, I'm more than happy to answer them.
So, Andrew, just a minute ago, I searched for one-page business plans, and it seems like it has a lot of the same things that are in a one-pager, kind of an executive summary. So for purposes of this gust profile and getting it in a timely manner, I'm leaning towards just going with my executive summary that has all the content, but is not called a business plan per se.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be sufficient. John, what do you think? Yeah.
There are 15 things that I'm going to look for in that one pager. They're the 12 steps of the lean canvas, and then details about your team, your go-to-market strategy, and your market size, right? Those 15 things are the core bones of your business. And if I can't understand those pretty quickly, and then step into your cash flow projection and see evidence of those 15 things in your cash flow projection, then I'm going to go on to the next one.
If that's a better answer for what they're looking for.
Now, to be clear,
that's a better answer for what they're looking for.
I don't do all of that work for this. I facilitate the program. And so what the question is how do you create a compelling story for the 40 investors so they start advocating for you? And they need to understand enough of the skeleton of your business so they can do that, right? And if you don't tell them how you're going to go to market, like for you specifically, Jonathan, some people think that you're an entry-level thing, and some people think you're for professionals, and there's a mixed projection that happens. And so you're going to have to figure out how to get them into one box in that business story that you tell on the one pager, because people do not currently understand where your product is positioned at.
Fair enough.
And then the 15 things I just talked about will support that story.
Very good. Thank you, John.
Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty good point for almost everybody in here. Have you done a lean canvas yet? If you have not, do it now. If you need to finish your gust profile, finish your lean canvas first. Absolutely. If you have a business plan, you don't have a lean canvas, and you're like, I don't need a lean canvas, do the lean canvas. Then edit your business plan. Anyways, anybody else? Any other questions? Anybody else?
Yeah, hi, my name is, I had a quick question kind of on the same lines. My name is Priyanka. In the spirit of finishing the gust profile on time, the criteria, John, that you were talking about, kind of having all of those information, I was curious, we can go and backfill some of those in the next 2 days. Is that a right assumption?
Yeah. I hope that you will have submitted it today, but you have time from now until the 2nd of March to edit it and backfill and tune it. And let me urge you, as you are frantically typing things in, to then go get somebody else to read it and then have them tell you that you need to, like take out these 15 words and make it simpler and clearer and reorganize it a little bit. Do allocate some time for the editorial process.
Definitely make it as succinct as possible.
Preferably with a different set of it.
Yeah, try to. It's hard to
preferably
keep
with a different set of eyes.
Yeah, it's hard to keep your feelings out of the writing too. So, but you have to make sure to go back through, read it again, and look for fluff. Look for anything you added that doesn't need to be there. Anybody else?
I just have another question about pre-commercial companies. It's my understanding that obviously you're going to have a better chance if you're commercial, but if you're pre-commercial and you're showing traction, would that be through competitors, through LOIs? What else? Like phone calls, that they're in?
Yeah. So we have funded a guy, 8 prototypes and 4 letters of intent, and he's still around. He was the very first one we funded. And so it's entirely possible that you'll make it all the way through, but you have to be compelling. And that was the thing about him, is that he was both passionate and compelling. And so, yes, it's totally fine for you to come in, and you definitely need to understand and think clearly about what is your evidence of traction. And I would urge you to do more than get a letter of intent from random people on the street, right? I would urge you to get commitments from people that have dollars associated with them, like cash down, or have time commitments, or have space commitments. The story in the Eric Ries book is they talked to a bunch of doctors. 99 doctors said, oh, I got to have this piece of equipment. They came back and they said to the doctors, for you to be on the list to get this equipment, we need you to write a letter to your facilities committee to reserve a room. If you reserve a room, we will put you on the list to get the equipment. 0 of the 99 people would commit their reputation to paper. So they were random people on the street that had no commitment to the product. What you need is to demonstrate that you have customers with commitment to the product, whatever that looks like. And preferably an ongoing growth in the number of people standing in line trying to throw money at you. Right? And the problem with enterprise sales is that they take a long time. And the problem with ads is that they take a lot of volume. And so both of those are disadvantages to you. So you need to find customers who will throw money at you today. Kate, you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question about the business model. It says you guys had, I wrote it down, like your plan to build, deliver, and retain company value, but I had always been told that your business model is just like your monetization strategy.
Yeah, I mean, kind of.
Okay.
John, you want to elaborate more? I mean, for the purposes of Gust, it's what they had asked for Gust profile. So it's what the investors are going to see
Right.
from that
So-
perspective. The investors are going to see from that perspective. The question.
So a monetization model is how you make money and where you spend the money to go. The business model is the fundamental choices. Like Sue has got to decide whether she's going to be selling advertising to enterprise or whether she's going to be selling to individuals. You know, there's a whole collection of strategic decisions that make it one kind of company compared to another.
Yeah.
So for me, I have a hard time understanding B2B companies for startups because startups don't have any fat and they die very easily. And so I understand how to do B2C to B. And now I've just made a strategic decision about how I'm going to sell things in my company simply by saying I'm a B2C to B company instead of a B2B company, right? Have a completely different sales model, have a completely different revenue model. It implies completely different problems that are being solved. And so that's the business model.
Did that follow through for you? I mean, you're questioning whether the financial model was similar to the business model in this scenario. What John's saying is like your business model is like how you conduct business. Are you a B2B operation? Like do you sell to other businesses?
B2C.
You're B2C. Okay. And so what's your customer base?
Well, this is a dating app, so our business model is a freemium model. Our business model is a freemium model. Sorry.
So how do you make money?
Sorry.
I have another meeting, so I have to go, and I would like to sort of put a pin on it so that those that want to go feel free to go, and those that want to chat feel free to chat. Yeah. I'm going to pass the host to you, Andrew.
Okay.
And I'm glad to have private meetings with people as they want, and I'll leave this going. So sorry. Bye.
Thanks, John.
Bon voyage.
Thank you.
Arrivederci, Wiedersehen, gute Nacht, goodbye, ciao, farewell. No more? Is he still there? I don't know if he's just frozen again. Anyways, so.
How will we get the PowerPoint?
Oh, well, we will send it to you. So it should be included with some of John's information. I'm curious, actually, did anybody in here come directly through the meetup emails? Nobody. Okay, interesting. Oh, you did, Tom? No. Incredible. Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure that that avenue is working. We're exploring more of the marketing elements of what SAC has in place and how we can maximize that. Let me actually go ahead and set a reminder for today because I have to get off here in about 20 minutes to go directly into another call. So you guys have me for 20 minutes. 1 second here. I'm going to remember to send the PowerPoint to group. I have terrible ADD, so I just make calendar events for literally everything.
So you have all our information, so if we go out, then...
Yeah, I'll send it to John and he'll forward it to everyone.
Okay.
Yeah, to the list of people who joined this event. All right, any other questions? Any more? Anybody want to dive in?
There were some elements that John was talking about in the business plan that were like bare minimum has to be there. There were the aspects of the lean canvas, the problem solution, all of that. And then he mentioned the team. Can someone remind me, like, was a cash flow or like the projection where the next two parts?
He's got it on.
I feel like I'm missing something.
He's got like a slide share or something that has all the stuff that he specifically wants to see and that he trains all the investors on. Are there any investors in here that are working with John right now? I need that PDF. I don't know if he's got it open. It was like 15.
And by the way, Andrew, I'm glad you mentioned about putting everything in the calendar. So I was happy to know that I'm not the only one because I have literally like everything. Otherwise, I'll never.
Yeah, if I take a break, I have to add it to my calendar. So I remember that I took 15 minutes out of another task. It's terrible ADD, terrible.
Sweatystartup.com.
Wonderful. Here, I think this might get me there. Oh man, I'm really trying to find John's specific article about the 15 things that he wants you to mention. So he says 15, but the main components of a business plan are, you know, like your executive summary, your team, you know, your financials, business models, stuff like that. There are articles all over the internet, just tips for your business plan or how to structure a business plan. Or I don't know. We may have one on our website. I'm not even sure. I have no idea what's on there anymore. There's too much stuff. So I'd say you could probably find it through some of the resources for SAC. I'd say if you want to email John directly, he'll probably send it out to the entire group. And I can also, I'll add that to my,
Is the deadline for the SAC this evening, or is it March 2nd?
I have set it to expire at 11:59 p.m. tonight Pacific Standard Time.
To sign up. Yeah.
To sign up. Yeah.
Meaning to buy the meetup?
Yes, to buy the meetup ticket and to sign up for the Gust profile, you need to do that by tonight. You can keep editing your Gust profile up until March 2nd, and that's when it's like, that's final, that's what you've input.
Oh, so it's not going to be reviewed until March 2nd?
I believe that it might be reviewed up until this point, so they might see that you're making changes, and actually they appreciate to see people making changes, because then you end up at the top of their list again, the last person who edited. So keep editing and you'll keep showing up at the top of the list, and they'll see, oh, they're doing a good job, they're actually like making changes, they're going in and like maybe even go in every day and do it, just so you stay at the top of their mind.
Okay, good
Oh,
point.
you shouldn't have said that, Caitlin. Now we're all going to be pressing edit and save 7 times a day.
Hey,
Thanks
Joe.
for the insider info.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, did you get a chance to review that email I sent you a couple weeks ago?
I don't think I got it.
Okay, so Andrew at Symphysis, find the email I sent you, respond to Dan Diamond. He's interested in speaking with you.
Oh, wow. I did not get that. Oh, my God.
Okay, yeah, I was able to make that connection like 10 minutes after our last meeting. So, Priyanka, go ahead.
So the submission of the Gust profile, so it's signed up, I'm going through it. The submit your profile to SSE, that also needs to happen before 11:59, is that correct?
Yes, I do believe so.
You need to have your submission in, but you can edit your profile until the 2nd.
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I submit, can I really go back and edit my profile, but it seems like you can.
Yes. Yeah.
And you can continue to edit after the 2nd. My understanding is the 2nd is when the investors will look at it for the first time.
Yeah, so I guess I should have made that more clear when we started out, and I said that we were using somebody who had previously attended SAC. We did it after they attended SAC to update their Gust profile for future events.
Yeah,
so
this is not a solid, like, you're gonna use this once and walk away. You're gonna keep using this. You can keep using this forever. Anytime you need investment, you can keep doing it. Anytime you work with another conference, anytime you work with another investor, you can show them this profile, and everything's private. You have to, when you're going through your profile, there's a setting to share it with other people, and anybody that wants to see your profile, they can't just see your numbers on the internet somewhere. So it's pretty safe.
I can't think of anything significant. Joe, did you have a question?
Yeah, so just to be very clear, I get it that we buy the ticket today. My Gust profile is pretty complete, and I'll keep working on it until the March 2nd. What about other team members' profiles? Is there like some kind of a lock that they can't add profiles? Because I'm the only team member up there right now, and I don't even have a personal profile. So
yeah, you have to add all of your team members. You should have had a personal profile when you signed up for it.
Sort of.
Maybe I do from signing up. I mean, I answered all the questions when I signed up, but
I do believe on the main page of the profile editing area, when you go down to team and you add team members and you can edit there, I think that's where you are going to add like the management team. You invite them, and they can also view your profile and make changes.
That's really cool because they need to do that. Okay, I'll figure that out. Thank you.
I'm curious. It sounds to me, I mean, I've been in competitions before and done other things. It sounds that SAC wants a specific type of profile that they're looking for. So we're marketing to, in this case, to SAC. And I want, yeah, that's what I wanted you to go. That's exactly right. And then when we apply for something else,
That's why I deferred to John so much, is because I wanted you guys to see what he had to say about my specific highlights, because you're not worried about what my feelings are. John is the one training these angel investors that are scrutinizing you guys. John is the person who tells them how to be an angel investor. So when you think about that trajectory, John is going to be influencing their decisions. You figure out what metrics John is interested in. You're going to figure out what information he is teaching his pupils. Or
I keep on talking about the financials, but so is he looking for the detailed spreadsheet or a link to the detailed spreadsheet, the upload of it? Do you know that? Or
they want to, for financials,
yeah.
For financials, they want to see flat. They want to see this 30,000 view. I look at it, that equals money, sounds good.
Okay.
The market segment is correct and the market strategy is correct. It looks like their audience is going to buy. This triggers the same feelings in me as it does for the audience, et cetera, et cetera.
Consider that they're going to be going over 60 plus profiles. They're not going to want to go through every single spreadsheet. Maybe down the line, they might want to see real numbers like, hey, it said that you've made $5 million. Have you really made $5 million? Can you prove to us that you've made $5 million later on? But your profile here is going to be bare minimum. Like, just give them the details they want. Just give them the details they're asking for. Don't give a whole bunch of extra information. They don't have time. There are 60 other people to look for.
Yeah, and another thing to take into consideration, they're not looking to see that you're like already successful and you've already made them $1 billion. That's not
not the
what,
point of
yeah,
this.
that's not what SAC is for. SAC is for helping entrepreneurs understand how to traverse this path. Like how can you make this journey and what tools do you need? And this round is literally the meat grinder. John puts all of these people in a box and he shakes it up and he sees what's alive inside when he's done. And that's what you guys are going to go through. I mean, he brings me along because I'm willing to chew people up and spit them out too. Like I've been through so many startups. I'm like, hey man, like, I don't think this is going to work. And they're like, you'll see, I'm going to be the next Bezos. And then a year later, they're like, I don't know what I was thinking, that the idea didn't work. We pivoted though. And now we're positive. So, sometimes you can just take a shit idea and turn it into something that is resourceful or useful.
And the awesome thing about the Seattle Angel Conference is that people have gone through the Seattle Angel Conference multiple times and then won on like their 5th try or something. They come here and they're like, this is my bare minimum. This is what I've got. And they're like, you've got nothing. Come back next year. So they come back and they're like, okay, I've done everything that you asked me to do last year. And they're like, still not good enough. Go back to the drawing board. They come back another year and they're like, wow, you are really persistent. You're really passionate about your idea. You're willing to go through the work. Every time I give you advice, you go and take it and you go do something with it. And even though in the beginning you might have felt embarrassed by what you had to show them year one, that you were like, well, this was my minimum viable product and it's trash. Here you go. Here's my trash. And they're like, okay, here's some advice. As long as you keep coming back with different iterations and explain to them that you've taken their advice to heart, like this isn't the one all, like this isn't your only chance to impress these people.
Yeah. I think John said something really important. We're on SAC. We've done 18 SACs, and they said that they were managing 63 businesses. So 18 people have won SAC. 63 companies have been funded by SAC. There you go. There's your cue. You're networking here. For the people who are sitting here right now, this is the most important thing you could probably hear. This is not about winning SAC. This is about winning the ownership of what you're doing. This is about
making
being
relationships.
What does your business do, right? Like I can tell you right now, Anya Bump, I can, because I see her name down there, I can tell you exactly what she does. I can tell you that Joe has a very inspiring project that he's working on with emergency recovery and disaster relief, I think it was, right? I know that Anya has these really incredible, elegant workspaces that if I could make my space as elegant and compact as her systems allow me to, I absolutely would. But her product isn't quite there yet, but it's chugging along. So that's cool. I mean, I haven't really gotten to dig into everybody here, so I don't know. I don't know what your passion points are, but those are the people who are able to convey to me the passion of their product that made me really like, I remember you, and it touched a spot inside that I'm never going to forget. And so that's what you're trying to do with John, right? But not just John, now you have to do it with his
40 other people.
Now you have to do it with his conscripts. So you're not trying to win SAC. You're not. You're trying to make connections. You're trying to participate. You're showing you can do the shit. And if you don't win, one of the investors is going to look at you and be like, hey, that person does their shit.
Yeah, and
Maybe we should invest in them.
a lot of people actually show up to watch the main event. There were like 160 or something for the last event that showed up total. And so there are a lot of outside people that are interested in what's going on in SAC and interested in maybe networking. So even if you don't win, even if you don't have an investor come to you like, you have a really great idea and I wish you would have won, I really would like to hand you $1,000 to go do something with it. You might have some random person who decided on a whim to come to this conference. They come here, they find out what you do, and they're like, oh my God, I would love to get in with that company. I would love to go work for that company for free so that I can get in on that because that's an awesome idea. So you might have all sorts of connections come out of Seattle Angel Conference.
Yeah.
Might not be funding, it might
I've
be
seen
completely
co-founders for
something unexpected.
I've seen a lot of. Go ahead.
Just a quick question. I'm texting my founder here on the valuation and ask, does that constitute an offer or is it just an indication?
Oh shit! 1 second here.
You know, they ask you how much you're trying to raise and what's the valuation and if it's free money.
I'm sorry. What was the specific question now?
So does that constitute a formal offer? I'm pretty sure it doesn't, but I want just to be sure.
I don't believe it does. No.
It's an indication.
Yeah, but it's an indication of interest, but unless they're, usually the investors are pretty good about covering their legal obligation.
Okay.
So, if they ask for information that's anything that could go under an NDA, I think you're fine. But, if in NDAs, in a lot of cases, I don't know if you guys has anybody here had the NDA problem yet? Has anybody tried to have an investor sign an NDA? No, none of you?
No.
Good. Because sometimes an investor will laugh at you if you ask them to sign an NDA.
I have another question though.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do we know how many SAC investors there are? Let's say, for this 19th SAC.
I think they're around 40.
I think it's about 40.
So if the money is like $250,000 that they're going to be rewarding to the winner, right? So divided by 40. Is that how much each one of them is investing?
Something along those lines. I think he adds investors throughout the process too. So it may go, the amount may even go up. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, it's never solid.
We just say 200,000 in all the advertising.
We say around 200,000.
Yeah, because it's over 200,000 and we don't really know the exact number after that point.
I've seen other Seattle Angel conferences. I've seen people awarded checks that were only like 185 or whatever. Yes, I do know that specifically per investor there's an amount, but it really depends on how many investors he was able to get before the conference started.
Okay, I guess there's a minimum and then a maximum. Tom says this around $5,500.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, it is.
So I'm thinking, would going to Republic, to do crowdfunding or to other, there are several crowdfunding sites now. Whether that would be comparable or not. I mean the experience or the effort that you have to give it.
I think for crowdfunding, you have to have like some kind of social leverage. Like you'd have to have like some kind of social media presence or some kind of virality that's inherently built into your system. Like you saw the German, chocolate company that we showed you. That's a perfect example of like, what is intimidating about this, right? Like you look at stuff like that, you're like, I can't produce that. How am I ever going to produce that? It's like, they can't produce it either. They've already got an established business that's been running for 10 years. Just, you're not going to be able to do that, but you have to figure out how you fit into that with that same type of compelling information. You won't have all of that time or all of those resources for sure.
If you have the time and resources, you can definitely put yourself on other platforms. There are other things like Gust, where you can put your business. The problem specifically with Gust is that you're going to have to you're not part of like a big business listing platform where they can just like scroll through and search fintech startups and just like find a bunch of fintech startups that they might be interested in and choose, that one, I'm going to give them some money. Your profile is private, so they can't just find you. But there are other ones that are public, where somebody might come across you specifically and looking to fund somebody. But really you're going to have to do the marketing or marketing and like outreach, finding the investors, putting yourself in front of them really.
Yeah. Oh, one thing I was
You
going to
paid $100 to do this.
yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you pay $100 and
You paid the
put all
money
your stuff together,
to do the work.
yeah, and it gets you iterations. I do know that if you do raise some money, then you can put yourself in PitchBook, and then they find you that way as well.
Oh yeah, like the structure and the strategy that we put together just to develop this presentation for you guys. I mean, I know it seems simple, and it really is simple, and we're going over the same things you've all been told. We're just, the real important parts are, why is it so important to the investors, and how do you need to phrase this to make sure that it's appealing to the investors? That's what we're here to show you. But putting together this presentation, doing all the research on it and all the studying, I mean, you're talking this campaign just to put this presentation together for you guys was somewhere around $7,000 in our time. So this is a very wide array of information that you have to figure out how to do on your own, and it's difficult. You know, you guys are founders. This is not something that's going to be easy. It's not supposed to be easy. This is, you know, the trenches. Oh, this is another thing I was going to say. So when you think about the investment cycle again, John says that they are managing 63 companies. SAC is managing 63 companies. How many additional investments do you think were made outside of that?
Right.
Because you're making connections, right? So like, if I'm assuming everybody here owns some stock, you know, some stock or understands stock or, you know, so on and so forth. Do you buy one stock or do you buy 10 different stocks? You know, you want to diversify your portfolio. These investors are doing the same thing. They're not going to drop all their eggs in one basket. They're playing around in SAC. They're playing around in like the Evergreen conference or whatever it's called. You know, there are like 18 of these groups around the area. Some of them are smaller, some of them are larger, some of them are just different positions than John and SAC. But
that's why this is such a nice opportunity. It's such a small amount that you can just put a little bit here and go somewhere else and put a little bit there, and really not just get the experience of trying to help fund a company, but get the whole experience of these different conferences or different programs where they're coming across different companies and relationships. They're also learning so much from every experience that they're doing, and so it's really nice for them to just have a little bit of money thrown into this one and get a lot of experience out of this one. Go to that one, get a lot of experience. It's experience for everybody involved.
I don't know this, but I'm assuming you said he takes you to things, but one of the things that I heard is it's pretty much on your own. If you do get picked to the finalists, then you need to start. You basically need to work the network. You need to go and set up your own meetings or reach out, or if somebody reaches out to you. So that is the job until, you know, have you done that? Have you guys had to do that? Or have you seen anybody who's done that? I mean, I'm just about schedule, you know, some people would like, it takes a lot of time. You know, we're all trying to build our businesses at the same time. It's different than going to a competition where it's like 2 days, you pitch a couple times. The conference lasts quite a few days, right? And so we have all this time. Yeah.
You have a lot of time. My assurance is that you'll have good help. Every startup that gets through the first round is assigned an investor to work with.
Okay.
So that investor will work alongside John. They will go through so on the other end of this that you guys don't see, there are workshops that are performed to help train the investors on how they should be. Like the last one we did was how to read the pitch deck, right? Like how should we, as the investors or the marketers that are building the information for you to answer it or to take information out of that and process it into like, how can we make profit using this person's business model? When we look at that, how do we analyze it? And so, you know, we have to go then analyze how the investors are analyzing what you're producing, and then we have to go help you produce it better. And then we have to help you analyze the process and understand that the way that you're looking at it might be wrong, that you're not talking to a blank slate on Gust, you're talking to John and his investors. So and you guys are gonna have to change it again. It's like your resume. Like how many times have you changed your resume for a specific job title, right? Like you're like, oh, I want this job. I'm going to go pander my resume to it. And I'm going to leave out these 6 experiences. I'm going to put in these 5 because these are more important here. And that's how you have to build your resume. That's what you have to do with the Gust profile. Like nobody wants to look over 8 pages of your resume. They just want to look at a single thing that's relevant to them. And that's it. Assume that it's a resume.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
That's great.